Hey team, out on Snow King getting a warm up in, and today we're going to talk about how you can be elite in your own way and how many ultra runners are missing out on this one aspect of training that really is the most important thing about performing in races.
1, 2, 3, 4. I was born to run.
Easy, quiet, smooth, fast. Easy, quiet, smooth, fast.
All right, nice 10-minute warm up, getting up to the trail system here at Snow King. It's always a grunt right off the gate, but the track is really tacky. We had our typical mid-August, what I call change in the weather. We had a 3-day rain cycle where it kind of ushers in a change in the weather. It's noon and 67 degrees at the start of this run, so a lot cooler, and we're really kind of slowly ushering in fall, even though it's mid-August here in Jackson Hole. Been also a little home improvement project. We've been going through a new concrete slab in the front with a new patio, so been kind of chasing the raindrops to kind of get that into place. Hopefully next week that's gonna really start looking complete. A little bit less tourism. Things start to die down just a little bit because of school starting in some areas. So it's just kind of that unofficial switch from summer to a little bit more of a fall sequence, fall weather, and maybe fall scheduling. Like you just kind of get into more of a rhythm now that little summer is kind of winding down here in Jackson Hole. Today I'm going to climb up Snow King 1,500 feet in just over 2 miles. So it's going to be a progressive lactate threshold LT1 type of effort. Oh, you're good. Just me. Yep.
Appreciate it.
And you can see with the change in weather, we also lost a lot of our smoke, which is awesome. There's the end of the zip line at Snow King. One of the longest elevation drops in zip lines. I have to say, it's pretty fun. So as I'm building into this threshold effort, we're going to talk a little bit about threshold and why there's really 2 key potent components to why every ultra runner should do intervals in their training, whether it's in a long run or a dedicated interval like I'm doing today. And if you're doing it, you're probably doing it for the purpose, one of the purposes that we're going to talk about, but probably not understanding how it relates to even more important purpose when it comes to your racing, and if you're really running at threshold. Okay, I've really settled in just under threshold, and you can feel, or you can hear my breathing, versus when I'm at threshold, it's a little bit more labored, and I focus on taking 2 breaths in and 1 out. So right now, there's a huge difference for me when I'm at 167, 168 heart rate and going to 170. Just those 2 beats make a huge difference between being sub-threshold and threshold. And I'm hopefully going to show you the difference here. It's going to kick up, and notice my breathing now. my talking and wait till it kicks up. All right, let's see. We're at almost 10% and I've gone into 170. So you can hear the difference in my breathing. It's a little bit more labored. I'm taking 2 in, 1 out. And this threshold in my zone system is 4 beats, which is crucial. And this is where it's crucial to be patient and not want to force it above threshold. It's better to stay below and be patient. All right, that was exactly 20-minute threshold climb, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve. All right, we got some tunes in the background at the top of Snow King. I'm officially on Josie's Ridge, and I'm just gonna traverse this along and then drop down in and do my second 20-minute interval. All right, so let's get into this. What is the most important trait to have in a successful ultramarathon race? And it's your ability to perform when you don't want to. And doing intervals in your training serves 2 purposes with this. If you're doing intervals, you're probably doing it for the first reason, and that's really kind of improving your threshold like I did today, improving your strength endurance, and making race pace feel easier. The music's getting louder. So that's the main reason why most people do intervals. But I really want to dive into the second reason to do intervals in your training, to improve your ability to perform when you don't want to. And this is what many amateur runners are not doing or think to do, is when we're doing intervals, whether they're at the track, whether they're doing intervals up Snow King, on the flats, any form of interval where you're running a lot faster than your steady effort, there becomes a mental mindset training component to this, of you having to deal with the mindset of in between intervals, of not wanting to do the next interval maybe. And that challenge that comes with the dealing with the moment, dealing with the effort, hanging on for the 20 minutes, hanging on for the 10 minutes, whatever the length of the interval is, we'll get to in a minute. But it's this mental chatter that we have with ourselves that is also part of the repetition that we're feeding thoughts into our brain. And this is what will help you when you get into those tough spots at the ultramarathon, when it inevitably gets tough and you have to make that decision whether to perform or not. Just like you have to make the decision to perform during your interval sessions. So this is training the brain. It's so crucial, all that mental chatter that you play with yourself in between intervals, to get that motivation going again to do the next interval. Not unlike trying to get out of an aid station when maybe your stomach's turned or the legs have gone, but you still have to put out and perform to have a good race. And this is so crucial in how intervals, regardless of the physiological adaptation that takes place, is training your mind to help you believe that you can still perform when you're tired, when the brain says no, whatever the reason is you say no, that you can still make that decision to go forward and perform. Not just shuffle, but perform. Choosing to perform is a decision. And that's what we can learn through doing intervals. So regardless of your ability, regardless of what you think about your ability, whether you're worthy enough to do intervals, okay, this is gonna help so much. If you're not doing intervals at all, hey, they're gonna help you physiologically. They're gonna help your leg strength. They're gonna help everything. But then throw this on top of this mindset training, and you're gonna be physiologically and psychologically prepared for 60, 70, 80 miles and beyond when you've got to perform and you don't want to. Okay, so let's talk about maybe 3 kinds of intervals that you can do maybe during a long run or during one of your weekend runs when you have a little bit more time. There's kind of 3 time segments that I use for intervals of this nature. They have to be long enough to kind of deal with the mindset during the interval and in between. So there's 20 minutes, there's 10 minutes, and there's 8 minutes. Okay, so play around with those. If you're doing 8, maybe you do 5 by 8, building up to 5 by 8. If you're doing 10, maybe it's 4 by 10. If you're doing 20 minutes, maybe it's 2 by 20, 3 by 20 as you build into it. All right, so I've rested long enough. Time to get down the ridge and start my second interval. Okay, there you go. 2 reasons why intervals are super crucial for your ultra racing performance. Now let's talk about 2 mistakes people make. All right, I am headed down Snow King. This first part's nice and technical, and then it opens up on the service road, so I'm gonna pick it up there. But good workout, good threshold sessions. And let's talk about those 2 mistakes runners make. First, biggest mistake is they are not truly running at threshold. And it's a good plug for my coaching app right now. I just launched a new coaching app, and if you're interested in that, it takes you through a nice, easy self-test to really establish your true heart rate training zones that correspond to all the purpose with every workout. So check that out if you want. I also have a couple videos on how to structure your heart rate training zones, but the key is that you want to be training just below or right at threshold. And for me, this is about a 10 beat range of zone. So it's crucial that you're training right at your threshold, because that's what's really going to help create your ability to eliminate lactate as quickly as you accumulate it. Once you go over threshold, you start accumulating lactate faster than you can get rid of it, and that's where fatigue sets in. But this is really where your ability is completely trainable. You can increase your time, you can increase your speed by doing threshold workouts that correspond to real world ultra running performance. Okay, and so the second mistake, it goes kind of piggybacks with not training right at your threshold. And that is that a lot of runners aren't obviously training fast enough for their threshold or hard enough, because they're doing a longer, more sustained work. They're out for their long run and they're putting in a moderate effort for a long time, and I think this is threshold, and it's not. It's too easy to be threshold and too long enough to be threshold. That's why we're doing shorter intervals, 20, 10, 8 minutes, because now those interval lengths correspond to the type of effort that we can sustain for that period of time. Longer, moderate efforts, longer climbs, a lot of being out on your long run during mountainous trail running terrain, you're putting a lot of moderate efforts in that just aren't hard enough, and it's just creating fatigue. Okay, and therefore you're just not getting all the benefits that we talked about today physiologically, and you're not really able to deal with the psychological factors of the interval styles that we talked about. So look for those 2 mistakes that you might be kind of doing. And I see this is real common in amateur athletes and ultra runners, because a lot of times the times they have the most to put in their running is on the weekend. So they're dedicating it mostly to just being out on adventure runs, which are important. But because of that, they missed out on doing interval style. So you can do this in the middle of a long run, at the end of a long run. Okay, so just don't sleep on it. That's what I'm saying. Okay, this is our way, every runner's way of being elite, because I truly believe being elite is trainable. Everything that makes an elite athlete elite is because of the work they put in, the smarts they put into it, and all the decisions they make to be their best. That's what being elite is. It really has nothing to do with your your kind of your genetics or your ability, is that being elite is a decision. And this is 2 ways to make a decision for you to be elite in your own way. All right. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for coming along on Snow King, Josie's Ridge, the town of Jackson, born to run world. See you guys.